Hi, my name is Alex Bruce, and this presentation is on raising chickens at home. Raising chickens at home is an excellent way to develop and create your own rewarding source of protein. In addition to this, they create eggs, which are renewable as long as the chicken is alive. They don't need a rooster to create feasible eggs. Chicken is cheaper and more ethical to farm at your home when compared to factory farming. Anybody who's ever seen the setup to a factory farm knows this. They're a horrible and unethical place, and I seriously hope karma doesn't exist, considering that we allow places like factory farms to exist. Um, it's a lot better to raise them yourself. When you're choosing a chick, you need to focus on the environment primarily. Secondarily, you need to focus on whether or not you want meat chickens or egg chickens. And the environment is critical because if it dies, it doesn't really matter if it's a meat chicken or an egg chicken. Chicks will need special care for the first few weeks of their life. You're going to need a heat lamp, a box that will keep them away from predators or places they could get stuck, and feeders that flow downwards from their upper containers. Because if they flow upwards, the chick can get in there and it can drown it. It's not ideal. And speaking of not ideal for chickens, not all animals are compatible with chickens. Dogs, especially, some of the nicer ones. If you forget to feed them for a few days, they'll go after the chickens because that's just their biological imperative, and there's not much the chicken can do about it. So you want to build a coop. There are prefabs and there are homemade ones. What you really want to look for is that they protect the top and the bottom, because the primary predator from the top obviously is going to be hawks, which you'd be surprised at how creative hawks can be getting into coops. But below, you're going to want this sort of fencing I've pictured below. See how it bends outwards and you can prevent foxes from digging underneath? If you've never seen a fox, owning chickens is an excellent way to see a fox. They aren't really interested in humans, but they're definitely interested in eating chickens. You can expect eggs from chickens, depending on the breed. Some of it can be as early as 21 weeks. They'll lay until they're about 5 years old, and they'll produce eggs relatively regularly. Most of this kind of depends on the breed of chicken specifically, but I have found that the chickens themselves tend to lay eggs right in their mature stage. So see, I have this picture of the chick, the fully grown chicken, and the maturing chicken. If you keep them all separate, then they'll develop their own hierarchy a lot more efficiently. But that's something of my own feeling. I would highly recommend getting a rooster, as it's natural for species to live with the hens and the roosters, because hens just existing on their own, that doesn't happen in nature. So they'll feel a little bit safer if you get them a rooster, but the rooster might actually do some substantial damage to your chickens. Obviously, if you get a rooster and you're gonna end up with some fertilized eggs, but this will only happen if you have mature hens and a mature rooster, and the rooster believes it's the correct time to breed. So this entirely depends on the species. I have pictured here probably one of the better feeding mechanisms that I've come up with. I don't have to replace the feed too terribly often here, because the chickens obviously aren't going to eat that whole thing of feed in one day. So it goes down as the chickens eat, but I've made it so that it can't spill out the sides too much. This depends on how old the chicken is and what its ability to chew is, what type of feed you want. Some are great for making them fat, but all the types of feed will affect their moods. I really think better feeds make better meat. I'm pretty against factory farming, and the chickens that I've raised they taste a lot better for sure. As you can see here, in watering chickens, I've developed this way of storing the water so that it goes down, but there's also a thing which works a lot better than this called a nipple feeder. and they hang from the bucket so that the chicken can't walk into the bucket and dirty the water. So it's a lot better to go up to down. The chickens will develop a hierarchy and they'll fight amongst themselves. They'll compete for dominance. This is perfectly natural. You don't really need to intervene too much unless it looks like they'll end up killing each other. Because if one of them gets too crippled, then it won't be able to compete in dominance for more, and its time is limited. So you have to watch out for that. This is entirely user dependent. How many chickens you need in a flock. Around 5 is good. 1, it'll feel lonely because they're actually quite social animals. And in order to be self-sustaining, you need more than 1 hen laying eggs if you're going to be consistently eating these eggs for breakfast. This is personally the best way to kill a chicken cleanly are these killing cones. You put the chicken head first in the cone, the head comes out the bottom, and that's where you decapitate it. I've seen people shoot it, and I have here cervical dislocation, which is where you snap its neck. But the killing cone is the best way to do it, because it drains the blood in one thing. These are for de-feathering it. This looks ridiculous. I've never done it this way. What you want to do is boil water, put the decapitated chicken, in the boiling water briefly. And if it's like really scalding, you'll be able to pull the feathers out. Yeah, now you have your own chickens. They taste quite good. It's not red meat. Only a few of their organs are red meat, so you're going to want to cook them for a long time. So be aware of that. You got to cook it longer than red meat. And since you're cooking your own chickens, you also get to cook the organ meat, which is some of the better stuff, which you don't have access to in most Safeways and most grocery stores. Small-scale chicken farming is a rewarding way to grow your own protein. It brings you closer to nature and makes you less dependent on the grocery store. That's true. So,